A city can have monuments, grand arches, towering spires, places that make you stop and stare, but there's a difference between a building that's impressive and one that's important. Every great city has one structure with overarching purpose, defining everything around it. This is that building. But first it was time to bring some foliage to this city, so I got to work preparing the plot. I want this Capitol building to be the staple of this city, a center for villagers of all backgrounds and regions to come together, exchange goods, and spark diplomacy. And in order to do that, the city grounds need to be more presentable. After lots of gardening, the plots of lapis were starting to look complete. Hello and welcome to Lapis City. If you're new here, this is my French architectural city that I've been working on throughout this hardcore series. Today's a big day though, because it's finally time we begin the process of expanding my influence over this world, which starts with the construction of a Capitol building, central embassy, whatever you want to call it. But basically, this will be the place where foreign trade is managed, so where shipments and goods from farms of other regions are processed and such. I just spent some time working on some organics throughout this district though, trying to give it more life, so I built a pretty calm park with some statues, another large tree on the outskirts. I also got rid of the monorail train. I was getting tired of the sight lines being blocked, so I shredded it for materials. I'm just basically trying to fill open spaces with some foliage and details. As I construct more buildings, the openness will become much less pronounced, which I think will help me. I work better when I can actually visualize spaces. But this Capitol building is probably the most important out of all the buildings of this city, and it's crucial to the villagers and the economy of Lapis that I begin construction. So I got to work setting the first blocks in place. If my empire is gonna expand beyond this city's borders, it needs a place where those connections actually begin. A center of commerce over the region with ties stretching all directions. Government buildings and many neoclassical buildings usually rely on symmetry, so the first step is establishing a strong central axis, which kinda acts as a guide you could follow throughout the building process, which is why I'll usually build the front face first. The inspiration behind this design is of the Pantheon in Paris, which has some resemblance to the Capitol building we have over here in the US. However, theirs is purposed as a mausoleum and monument. I wanted this embassy to feel formal, but still visually connected to the rest of the district, so I stuck with the same soft color palette I've been using for a few of the builds recently. The problem I came across was that this building isn't centered in the district, so the building had to feel important without dominating everything around it. I want to give you a little tour of the exterior so far, so I can kind of explain my process a little bit. The front entrance is obviously the most detailed, and I'm pretty proud of this. The great thing about building is that you get to constantly experiment with little details, and the more you build, especially in a particular style, you kind of create like a mental storage system of details, which definitely helps me when I get stuck in the process of trying to decide on whether something works or not. This is my first time building in this neoclassical style, and it's honestly reminding me of the Arch a little bit. This whole district is eventually meant to be like the high high society portion of Lapis City, so I really went all out with some of these buildings. But if we come over here, you'll see some of the evidence of civil unrest here in Lapis. Some spray paint across the wall. Maybe it's out of protest, who knows. What I do know though is that this Capitol building is definitely coming along well so far, and if I'm gonna eventually plant the seeds of a new city, I better get back to work. But this building is more than just the governing hall of Lapis. Eventually it'll represent other cities entirely. You know what they say, all roads lead to Lapis. Government buildings need presence. If they're too small, then they won't give off that feeling of power that you sense around these kind of structures, which is why most of this roof design here is about exaggerating that vertical scale. With the last exterior blocks placed, it was time for me to head inside and finish up this embassy so we can start forming the beginnings of trade routes throughout these regions. Since this is a very important build for the government of Lapis, my aim for this interior is to fill it with grandiose designs and artworks all around the walls and ceilings so travelers really get an idea of the wealth and influence of Lapis. It'll also be where most of the goods of Lapis will be held, so I'll need some space for some storage rooms as well. Most of what makes a building feel finished goes way deeper than the simple structure. It's the small things around it, the little things you wouldn't notice unless you look closer, the details. As I'm showing off this interior, I just want to say I'm sorry for the delay in uploads this week. I was home for spring break without my PC, so I was unable to progress in the world really at all. It was also my birthday week, so I was celebrating that with family and such. I am 20 years old now, bruh. That is a little crazy to think about. Hopefully it'll be a good decade. But again, I'm sorry for the delay. The good thing is I had a lot of time planning things for the future of this world with building styles and such. You'll see more later next week. I promise I'm back on my normal schedule. I definitely think I'm gonna incorporate interior building more into these videos. I know you've seen me build a few in the past, but in reality, most of these buildings are empty or either a farm or some sort of villager bedding. This whole interior is roughly based on my other embassy over in Strudsville. I built that long before I started uploading. It was actually the first build that made me want to start posting. You can see I got this floor mural idea from it. Lots of blues to represent Lapis. As I said, just lots of artwork and sculptures all around the hall, and a large table for the council members to hold all of their meetings and such. This is actually the first large storage here in Lapis. I plan on it being like my main system, so I'll gradually be moving goods here to give me a reason to actually come and visit this place. It's not an automatic system or anything. I did not have the time for that, but it'll do its thing. Upon finishing the embassy, I began alerting my allies and establishing trade routes among them. Spending so much time working on Lapis, I began to realize that my influence had not been as distant as I had thought. In fact, I really haven't seen much of this world to a greater extent, and if I plan on establishing an empire, I think I should spark the beginnings of civilization further than I ever have before, to a biome unique compared to the Lapisian plains and Taigan rivers of Strudsville. So alongside my two villager diplomats, we left civilization in hopes of starting one anew. This is a map showing a rough idea of the route I'll be taking. I plan on heading mostly north for a few days until I reach beyond the familiarity of the surrounding regions. From then on, the lands will be mostly uncharted, giving me many options for future settlements. After 3 days of travel, we came across a village far from the reaches of Lapisian authority, so as an offer of allegiance, I destroyed the oppressive pillager regime that had previously been controlling them. I'm looking for a place with natural beauty, somewhere where the terrain captivates you, a place that makes you look at it and think, home. And after weeks of travel, I think I may have just found that place. Now you may question my judgment a little, but I really think this area could work. Yes, it'll need lots of work terraforming wise, but the mountain sits so perfectly in the backdrop, which is what I really love about this place. I needed something where there's some visual anchor for the backdrop of my videos, and just a change of scenery in general. About a week ago, I put out a poll to get an idea of some of the styles you guys would be interested in, and I appreciate all your insight, and I'm still deciding honestly, but this place makes me want to experiment with building styles and contrast from the European style for a little bit. Maybe explore more modern East Asian, South Korean style mixed with industrial. Who knows, I'll eventually decide. However, this will be more so a hamlet of the empire. I don't plan on making it too large, nor do I plan on focusing most of my time here. I want to build it up alongside Lapis, kind of introduce it as like a second plot line almost to these videos, because recently the videos have been taking so long to produce with the sheer size of some of the Lapis projects. So I think winding down scale wise and focusing more on the environment aspects of builds will kind of reset my burnout. Not that I really have burnout. I honestly enjoy building so much. And I get to listen to audiobooks when I'm building too, so I get to learn in the process, which is pretty nice. But before anything can get built here, I want to do some terraforming to these massive cliffs and give the landscape a beautiful horizon. So I was a little conflicted for a while, deciding which part of the project to start. I must have completely underestimated the amount of land I'm gonna have to cover, so I'll definitely be splitting this terraforming project into bits throughout the future. As I mentioned, this area is going to be much more focused on the environment aspect. I'm thinking a cliffside town of some kind with a massive falls right below. But if you couldn't tell by now, the whole idea I'm going for this section is like a scenic hiking ground leading down to the shores, which will also be right by the edge of the town grounds. Also, I just want to mention all of these trees, as well as the embassy we built earlier, is already up on my Patreon if you're interested and want to support me further. It would definitely be appreciated. And after spending an unbeknownst amount of time on this, it finally began to look like I was actually making some progress. Okay, I'm definitely a lot more confused now about what I want the eventual style to be of the buildings of this town. This took lots of trial and error and a lot more time than I expected, but I think it was worth it. This is my first actual terraform build in this world, and this isn't all I plan on doing. I have a bigger plan in mind for the environment of this place now, with the large falls over in that bay over there, like I mentioned. But I miss projects like these. They're very tedious with the amount of details, but you can really make a place feel totally different, and this is only one small cutoff of the cliff. I haven't even finished this section yet. If you look towards the rock face by the sea, you'll see that it's all just still stone and stuff. This was actually inspired by a trip I took over the summer up to a few of the state parks up in the northeast of America. I'm surprised I don't terraform more. I really enjoy nature and the beauty of it, especially since here in America, our architecture is kind of lacking in terms of beauty, to a certain degree. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas for the styles you'd like to see, now that you actually have some context to base it off of, please let me know. I'll honestly probably pick one from the comments, and if anything, I'll definitely be using them as context when I do choose. Also, I know you all probably saw the new biome that's coming out in the future, and I'd like to know what you guys think of it. Honestly, from what I saw, I'm satisfied with it. I like the new blocks. They'll be good for texturing and such. As a builder, I pretty much like any block they add, but yeah, pretty cool. Not like, oh, let me run a version without all my mods updated cool, but still pretty cool. Now this is a map of what I plan on being the main town of this area. You can pretty clearly see the rapids. Eventually I'll connect the river to the one you see at the top of the map, but for now it kind of starts out at nothing. Don't judge me. This is a nice little hamlet though. As I mentioned, eventually the entire cliff face will be terraformed, as well as the further one that isn't shown here. I honestly don't know what I'm going to build for this town though. That's really my main issue. I know I originally said I was going to do a modern Asian Korean style, but I honestly might switch it up. Maybe might do something American now that I built this. I guess I'll decide. But let me know what you think of the location. I needed some differentiation for a little, and in no way does that mean I'm stopping the construction of Lapis. As I said, it'll merely be an additional project for videos. Speaking of Lapis, it's the time of the video where I thank everyone who made this episode possible. Firstly, I want to thank the new Patreon members, that is Torpus, Finn, and Otto MBJ. Thank you guys so much. It really means a lot to know you guys actually enjoy what I build. I'm always questioning my own skills, so it definitely helps as reassurance. And again, if you're interested, all the builds in this world can be found there, as well as most of the trees. Next, I want to thank Spiffanometry for the $7 donation on Buy Me a Coffee. That also really means a lot, so thank you for that. Also, check them out on YouTube, another great builder within the community. And again, also, if you guys want to donate to my Buy Me a Coffee, it would really mean a lot. I spend a lot of time producing these videos, losing a lot of sleep, which means I drink a lot of coffee, so it definitely would help. But the final name for the board for today is the person who basically made this video possible by suggesting the idea of an embassy. So thank you for that. It was really unique, and it definitely fit perfectly for the world. Again, if you guys have suggestions for any part of this world, whether it be Lapis or the new area, please let me know. I always love incorporating your ideas, and I really like to know that you guys care about my city and actually have things to say about it. It's honestly such a nice feeling. Also, I'm thinking about creating some sort of postal service in the new area, inspired by one of you, of course, where I answer some of the questions you guys ask or that you have. I don't know, just an idea, so let me know what you would think about it. But for now, like always, I want to do a final cinematic of all the building done and get you up to speed on all of the progress of the world so far. But I have a lot planned for the future of this city and this world. This new region will really open up a whole new set of ideas and possibilities for the dylisdoog hardcore journey, so long as I survive. But that'll do it for this video. Again, I'm seriously really sorry for the delay in uploads. I literally didn't have access to even begin the video until like 11 days after the last one, due to my school's spring break, which usually I start it the same day I upload, so very different. Hope you guys aren't too upset though, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, if you want to support me further, I have my Buy Me a Coffee in the description, as well as my Patreon with all of my builds and many tree designs. But again, thank you guys for sticking with me throughout my recent inconsistency. I promise I'm not slacking or anything, it's all just external. Next video, we're going to continue to work on the new region, as well as build up one of the smaller Lapisian plots, so stay tuned for that. But for now, thank you guys so much for all your support, and bye.